Hey everyone, it's that math magician, and on this video we're going to look at our introduction to the cosine ratio. Now hopefully you have already watched the tangent and the sine introduction videos, and you're going to notice that this cosine video starts off right where our sine ratio video ended. So before you watch this video, make sure you watch the sine ratio introduction video so you have a better understanding of where we're going to pick up. Now, we talked about in the last problem where I have this right triangle here, where I don't know the opposite side here of x, and I don't know the bottom side here of y, but I did know what the hypotenuse was. That was 14. And we learned in the last video that tangent did not work in this problem, right? When we used tangent, we ended up having x and y, our delta y and our delta x values. They were both unknown. So this problem was unsolvable. Now using sine, we were able to figure out what our opposite side was here for x. And we were able to get that value because sine involves the opposite side and the hypotenuse side. Now for cosine, this is the new ratio that I want to introduce. Cosine is going to allow us and help us to now solve for this third side that we normally would call delta x, but instead now I'm going to refer to this side as the adjacent side. And we call it the adjacent side because this is the side of the triangle that is next to or adjacent to the reference angle. Okay? X represents the side that's opposite to our angle. Y represents the angle that is adjacent to our angle. So we want to solve for y when we know that our hypotenuse is 14. Again, tangent is not going to be helpful here for us. Instead, we're going to introduce our new ratio for trigonometry. That is our cosine ratio. We abbreviate it COS. We do not pronounce that cos or cos or cos. No, that right there represents cosine, and it will always be cosine of your angle theta. So cosine of theta will always equal another fraction, and this fraction is very similar to our sine fraction. Remember, our sine fraction had the hypotenuse as the denominator of our fraction. I'm going to do that same thing. We're going to write our hypotenuse as the denominator. Now what will go as the numerator is not the opposite side, but instead it's this adjacent side. And that right there is our cosine ratio, and it will allow us to now solve this triangle for that value of y, the base of the triangle. So let's go through now how to use cosine to help us solve for y. We're going to use cosine of our angle. Our reference angle here is 23 degrees. That will be equal to our fraction. Again, our hypotenuse will be the denominator of the fraction. Remember, the hypotenuse is always opposite of the right angle. So our hypotenuse here is 14. My denominator here is 14 as well. But now instead of writing the opposite side on top, we're going to write the adjacent side, which in our case here is a y. So now again, just like tangent, just like sine, we have our equation. With one variable, we can definitely solve this. Let's put this guy over 1, let's cross multiply, and let's solve for y. So let's see, y times 1, that will give me a value of y equals 14 times cosine of 23. So I will write that in as 14 times cosine of 23 degrees. And that right there is what we need to enter into our scientific calculator to determine what that unknown side is. Again, I'm going to use the free online scientific calculator known as Desmos to enter that in. You see the work from the previous video. I'm going to now erase this and use our calculator to solve this problem. And we see that 14 times cosine of 23 degrees ends up with a value of y as 12 0.887. And so by using the cosine ratio, we are now able to solve for that unknown side of y where tangent and sine both failed. Okay? This is why it's so important that we learn and we memorize those three trig functions: tangent, sine, and cosine. They all have their place when we're trying to solve a right triangle and we know a side and an angle. It's that Math Magician, and I'll see you on the next video.